I started using margin pricing, and now we're able to charge less, but make more money. Our hourly rate went down almost $200, all because...
So no sales tactics, no gimmicks, but now you close jobs with less effort.
And the best part is not only does my company make more money, so do my employees, and my customers still get a cheaper price. The only regret I have is that.
What's up, Jared?
What's up, man?
How's it going?
Long time no see.
I was going to say that.
You know what's up? My beard's getting longer. That's what's up.
Your beard is getting longer. It actually reminded me when you had your beard really long and you were running and your mustache. I just remember for some reason your mustache being this big gnarly thing. You could probably grow a pretty gnarly mustache, huh?
No, it doesn't grow in the middle.
Yeah, but long.
Oh, I could do like a twirly thing.
Yeah,
I could do that.
It reminded me of that Chuck Norris video that you starred in.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We should get Costin to cut that up, throw it out there.
I wonder if you looked that up, if it would come up.
Oh, it definitely would.
You think so?
Yeah, I think.
Jared Williams, Chuck Norris?
Yeah.
Gosh,
probably would.
Shouldn't have mentioned that.
Yeah, I know. Everybody look up Jared Williams, Chuck Norris.
Or not.
It'll help Daniel out a lot.
Yeah.
From his old YouTube channel.
No, that's on my brother's YouTube channel.
Oh,
that was back in my brother's name is Tyler, for all the listeners. And he had a channel called Tyler TV. And he was making shorts, like funny shorts.
Before shorts were cool.
Yes. And there's actually one on there that's pretty funny with our buddy Eric in it.
That one is probably the funniest.
Alaskan Hunter.
Yeah.
You remember that? The bear mead?
Yeah, bear mead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric was really good at that.
So if you do find the channel, make sure and watch the Alaskan Hunter one, because it's actually pretty funny.
In addition to Jared as Chuck Norris.
That one was bad. I'm a bad actor. Like, what can I say?
Yeah.
Terrible.
That is true.
It's very true. Acting is hard, dude.
It is hard.
It's real hard. You got to watch the way you say your words and the looks you get on your face. And
you got to do a bunch of stuff. And eventually you have to sign up with Scientology.
Yeah. And I have a bunch of experience too.
With Scientology?
Both. Yeah. Acting and Scientology.
You are so
you are
so well versed.
I don't even know what Scientology is. Like, I saw there's that one chick who was an actress who was in Scientology. She did a documentary, but it was just a bunch of garbage. You didn't I didn't understand anything about Scientology anymore, except that she thought it was terrible, and that she thought they were trying to kill her, and I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, you just got to read more science fiction, and then you'll understand Scientology a little bit more.
Is that true?
It is true.
Well, we're screwed.
Yeah, you're not going to read it. Actually, real question. What are you reading right now?
Absolutely nothing.
How come?
Because, I don't know. Reading is hard. No, I'm reading, I'm not reading any business books or anything, because I got enough going on in my head. Sure. And I don't need any more going on. So sometimes you just need there's seasons in life, right?
Sure.
So I was reading my Bible this morning. I read that every day. I was reading Ecclesiastes, and he talks about how there's a season for everything. So there's a season for, making money. There's probably a season for losing money. There's a season for grief. There's a season for joy. And there's a season for learning and gaining knowledge. And then there's a season for not doing that as well. Right? Because I can gain a bunch of knowledge. I can read books. The problem with books, here's the big problem. Typically in your business, and this is a problem with business people, and this probably isn't a very popular opinion, okay? But I have a plumbing business. My plumbing business has very specific problems related to my plumbing business, okay? Now, I can go pick up a book, and that book is going to teach me some business stuff. It's my job to take it and relate it to my plumbing business. And 9 times out of 10, when you read a book, it's not talking to your specific problem, right?
True. Yeah.
And so if you can find books that talk to your specific problems, that's great. But a lot of the times, what you would be better doing is just taking a minute to think about your problems.
Sure.
Which most people don't do.
True.
Actually just ponder your problems. Think about what you can do, why you have the problem, where the problem originated, what happens if you do this thing you're thinking about doing, what are the unintended consequences, and just think about it. I think that's where most I think most business owners fail. There's really two things that I think most business owners fail at. They don't think enough about what they got going on and what the heck they're doing. And then they get lazy. So they want the easy way to do it, because thinking and trying and doing are hard. And so they want just some quick, easy shortcut to get them to the next step. And the thing that makes like successful people successful and non-successful people stay unsuccessful is successful people are looking at the problems and it's hard to solve the problem. And they come up with the best way to solve the problem, and it's usually not easy. And they put their head down and they get to work and they do whatever it is they need to do, right? Rather than trying to come up with some shortcut or some easy solution.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where do you see that? Like what you just described, like, is there an aspect within the plumbing business specifically that shows up mostly that you've noticed?
Here's a super simple one. And the only reason this is like fresh on my mind, price book. A lot of people want to go buy a price book. They want to go pay a monthly fee for a price book, or they want to buy a price book.
Real quick, just for my education, like what are they getting when they purchase that product?
Nothing.
As far as you know.
In my mind, they're getting nothing.
Yeah, but like, is it something that updates each month? Like, because if I'm paying monthly for a price book, I expect it to like.
There's both. You can pay monthly, and I don't know. There's a whole bunch of monthly.
They just do a bunch of
updates
based upon something, right?
Yeah, and my experience with a price book, any one that you buy, it doesn't matter if it's a monthly or a one-time thing.
Yeah.
They go and they build these tasks, right, based off what's
AI data.
No, they build it off of, typically it's like, hey, we had a plumbing business here, and this is the price book we used in my plumbing business. So here's a price book that you can buy. Well, plumbing business in Alaska and plumbing business in Michigan and plumbing business in California and plumbing business in Texas,
UK,
but they're all going to follow the same core principles. They're all going to be different. Even a plumbing business like in Dallas, Texas versus Tyler, Texas may need a different price book.
Sure.
Right? There's going to be things that that are different, that take longer, that don't take as much time. Like, how long does it take you to run to the parts store? Nobody you buy a price book knows that information.
True. Yeah.
How long?
True.
How do you carry a toilet in your truck? Nobody you buy a price book from knows that information, right? So to shortcut and buy a price book is a waste of your money. You can build one yourself.
So buying a price
just
book,
one.
Yeah.
But building one is not easy.
Sure.
But it's a much better solution. Number one, you don't have to pay for something.
Sure.
Number two, you get something that has your knowledge in it, right? So you know what materials you're going to carry on your truck. You know what materials you sell the most of. You know what materials you never sell. You're like, what jobs you never do, because it just doesn't even make sense for your area. Why would you even put those in your price book, right? You know how long it takes you to run to the store and get a toilet. You know exactly where you're going to get a toilet, what toilet you're going to buy, and how much that toilet costs. Nobody else knows that information,
right?
Except for you,
right?
And so it's best to just build a price book, in my opinion.
And so you're saying that like sort of the biggest obstacle is just the time and maybe the effort and maybe the know-how, like the structure perhaps of like,
it's the time, the effort, and the know-how. Yeah. And there's things you can do to shortcut that, right? So there is the reality of like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Of course.
So if you get it, like if you go into our course, so if you're watching this on YouTube, go grab our playbook. There's a link down in the description. If you're listening on the internet, you can go to, www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook. Is it really that simple?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, you can grab our playbook. That's going to help you out a lot. But then also you can book a call with our team after that to see if you qualify to get into our, what do we call it? Is it a coaching program?
Yeah, training.
It's a coaching program.
It's a coaching program. That's the most
It's really a coaching program. Yeah, there's a bunch of training videos, a bunch of spreadsheets, all sorts of good stuff you can get in there. One thing you get when you get in there is we give you the spreadsheet, the template on how to build your own price book.
Right.
So
you don't have to, and what that does is then you don't have to like go suddenly take a 5-hour-long Google Sheets course on YouTube
Right.
to figure it out.
Right.
It's like,
We
hey,
give
man,
you
just
the Google Sheet.
plug in the numbers in the things
Yep.
and don't mess with the formulas. Should be fine.
Yeah, we give you, we give you the pricing calculator, but then you walk through like a tour of my price book to kind of give you an idea of what you're building.
Good example. Uh-huh.
And then we give you the tools to build your own price book. And people in my course will still want to go buy a price book. And I tell them, look, put the work in.
Yeah.
You could probably get it done in a day. It's not as hard as you think. It seems daunting when you first start, but put the work in and build that thing because it's going to be worth it.
Right.
And then you're going to know what's in there and you're going to watch your business and you're going to know how to go in there and modify this thing to work for your business in your area, the way you run your stuff, right? For your trips to the hardware store.
How much does how much you built your price book?
Yep.
How much time does it take maintaining it?
Not much. Like in the last 2 years, we maintain material pricing every quarter.
Okay, gotcha.
So we get an updated list of all the materials, how much they cost, and we go update. We have a spreadsheet that we send to the supplier. They update the material costs. It updates all of our tasks in the price book on the spreadsheet. And then we go into ServiceTitan and have to manually update the pricing.
Gotcha.
Takes maybe 2 hours
Gotcha.
every quarter, 8 hours a year.
So it doesn't take you really any time to, once the thing is built, that takes you time. But
Yep.
then once it's built, then it's like, all right, cool. Now you
Once
just sort of do some maintenance throughout the years.
Yeah, and once it's built, you're going to go use it, and you're going to go, oh, this sucks. We should do this differently.
Right.
And the thing is when you go buy a price book, you're going to go, oh, this sucks.
This all sucks.
We should
This
do
is all not what I
differently,
do.
right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be way more convoluted and way more time consuming to work with one that you bought than to one you built yourself.
How high of an understanding or high level, deep understanding do you need of like how to do flat rate pricing in your business to make use of that price book?
You don't need hardly anything. Like you build the price book, like you could start using it once you go through the spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
And essentially all you're doing is you're creating a category, right? So we pre-make the categories for you. And then you're creating subcategories in those categories. So you can imagine like if you're on an iPad, like we build this thing to be able to put it into ServiceTitan. ServiceTitan has categories, then subcategories. You can go subcategories of the subcategory, and you can go sub and sub and so on and so on. You can go, I don't know how far you can go, but you can go deep.
Yeah.
So you build out your categories, right? So like mine is like admin. That's where like our discount codes, our diagnostic fees, our borough paperwork fees, our permit fees.
The things that are specific to your business.
Yeah, those live in admin. So there's like, when you look at the iPad, there's like little blocks. And they're like 3 wide and however tall they need to be to make however many categories you have.
Right.
They can click on admin and then all the tasks in admin pop up and they just add it to an estimate. So like we have admin, I like to split it up by room. So we have kitchen, we have bathroom, we have mechanical room, we have drain clean, so that it's split up to where it's usable. Okay.
Sure. Like
So, like-
practically usable.
Yeah. So then you go into bathroom and it's like bathtub, lav, toilet. And you click which one you're going to work on.
So that's another subcategory.
You click on toilet, and it has like all the stuff for toilets in there. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
So you just go and think, okay, well, what are all the parts on a toilet?
Yeah.
Those are the things I need in my price book.
Yeah.
So if you go into somebody's house and there's a flapper bad, you have a flapper task. You go into somebody's house and they have a fill valve bad, there's a fill valve task.
Right.
There's a flush valve task. There's a whole tank rebuild task. There's a replace wax ring task. Or we call it pull and reset task. There's a toilet tank task. There's 3 different kinds of new toilets that we offer. And that's it. New handle task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where guys would be like, oh, I don't want to write that down, especially if they didn't have any like spreadsheet knowledge.
Yeah.
Like even how to use a spreadsheet just from scratch. I could see the attraction to just like, well, let me just go buy this thing. Even if I have to change it, I don't even know where to begin with this. So I can see the attraction.
Yeah.
But
so when you go in and you like think of those parts, like the way I did this at first was I took a piece of paper. I had a notebook actually, like a spiral wound, and I wrote like my main category at the top of the page. So it was like bathroom. And then I was like, okay, what categories do I need?
Did you like go
there?
sit in your bathroom, or did you just like sit at your kitchen table and
I
think?
sat at my kitchen table and thought, and I went, okay, in the bathroom, there's toilets, there's sinks, there's bidets, there's tubs and showers. Okay. And then I flipped the page and I went, let's do the toilet category.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then I wrote down all the parts of a toilet. So I went to Google and said, parts breakdown of a toilet. And you can get a parts breakdown of a toilet. Just write down all those parts. Those are all the parts you need. And then I flipped my page and I went, sink. And I went, parts breakdown of a sink. And I wrote down all the parts of a sink.
Yeah.
And then flip the page, parts breakdown of a bathtub, parts breakdown of a shower. Write down all your stuff. And then from there, you would make task codes. So I would do this on a spreadsheet now.
Sure, of course.
When I first did it on paper because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to use spreadsheets. Thank goodness for YouTube.
Dude, and thank goodness for spreadsheets in
Dude,
general.
that's the other thing. If you need to make a spreadsheet, if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, yeah, I need to make a podcast, or I need to make not a podcast.
You can do that too if you want.
You can do that too if you want, but I need to make a spreadsheet that has a price book. And you don't know how to use Google Sheets, there's a whole free, amazing resource called YouTube. It's free. There's information at your fingertips. Don't be lazy
Yeah.
and just be like, I don't know how to do that. Go figure it out.
Yeah. Don't neglect that
Go
responsibility.
find the information. It's there. All you have to do is go get it.
And just because you're not doing like actual plumbing work doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're not doing something very productive.
Yes. This is one of my new pet peeves, by the way.
Not sharing permissions on Google Sheets.
No. Yes, that is a pet peeve of mine. But one of my new pet peeves, and you're gonna see it. You're gonna ask me a question, and I'm just gonna write YouTube.
I already see that.
Do you? Have I done it to you?
Yeah. You've either done it or you've projected it in such a way that now I try to learn as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And so now I go, I'm not going to ask Jared that. I'm just going to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
Like, so
Dude.
for example, like this was a spreadsheeting example. You wanted me to make a spreadsheet, or I needed to make a commission tracking spreadsheet for one of our sales guys.
Yeah.
And I was about to call you and be like, Jared, can you help me with this? And I was like, Jared doesn't want me to call him and do this. I can figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to figure this out. And so then I just sat there for a while and I thought about it and I tried a bunch of stuff. I watched some YouTube and I didn't know the answers.
Yep.
And then I figured it out and it's cool and it works well.
Okay. And
And it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. Just
Yeah.
saying.
And here's the benefit of this, right? If I would have walked you through how to make that spreadsheet, you wouldn't have learned nearly as much.
Actually, what happens when you walk me through a spreadsheet is me watching you think through making your own spreadsheet and then
Yeah.
saying, here, did you get that? And I'm like, nope. Because
Yeah.
you don't think how I think.
No.
I fiddle with
Not at
spreadsheets
all.
differently and it's just not that helpful.
Exactly.
And I learned way more making that spreadsheet. I'm way more
Exactly.
competent at a spreadsheet. I'm not that competent, but I'm way more competent than I was.
Exactly. So I paid you for a few hours to learn how to make a spreadsheet, but from now on, you can make that spreadsheet in your sleep.
And I can make other spreadsheets, which has caused me not to ask you stupid stuff.
Now you're a better employee.
Yeah.
You just became more valuable.
Yeah. Pro tip to every employee out there. The less you have to ask your boss to do stuff, the more they'll like you.
If you're a general manager and you're listening to this, you should be a spreadsheet wizard.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not, you should be spending time on YouTube learning how to use Google Sheets to its to the extent of you're a master at it. My GM is a master at spreadsheets.
Yeah.
He was not when he started.
I think
He spent time probably on the weekend and after work learning how to become a spreadsheet master. And it has added incredible amounts of value to my business.
And also to your GM's life, because now he's competent in spreadsheets to just use them in other parts of his life to make his life more efficient and to get things done. It's funny just talk about spreadsheets for 25 minutes, but it is such a useful tool that I would say no matter what business you own, you have to keep tracking. You have to track data in some way.
Oh, dude.
And there's literally no better way to do that than with a spreadsheet.
Correct. There's no better way to understand your business than to look at data.
Yeah, and then really think about it.
And if it's in a spreadsheet, you can manipulate the data to tell you certain things.
Yeah, like what's going to happen in the future if this variable changes, what's going to be the new variable? Like, for example, if my CSRs are booking, you can make a spreadsheet that says, okay, well, like however you'd make it. But the point is if your CSRs are booking 65% of the jobs,
Yep.
you can say, you'd put your revenue figures in there, your average call, whatever.
Yep.
And you'd say, okay, well, given that this is my values, this is how much money I'm making. What if I got them to book 95%? And you'd see all the money that you would now make.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, hey, wait a second. That's a ton more cash.
You would see, this is what's crazy, because I've done this. You would see if you could increase that by 5%, it makes a crazy difference on your top line revenue and bottom line revenue.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And then
like a 5% increase in just a booking rate can be a ton of money.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And like you don't really make those connections until you manipulate the data. I would say actually, let me back up. You don't really make those connections until you build that spreadsheet yourself so you understand what it's doing.
Yep.
And then you manipulate the data and you go, whoa, wait a second.
Yep.
It like opens your mind to whole new possibilities that you didn't know were possible.
Correct.
And then it gives you an actionable. Like, crap, I guess I can make more money by just telling my spreadsheets to do a better job.
Correct. So this leads perfectly into what we're going to talk about for this podcast, because I want to talk about, we completely changed the way we structured our pricing. And I would say if you've got guys out in the field and you have a steady P&L and you have data that you can pull just from your P&L, this is in my opinion, a better way to price your jobs.
And P&L is a profit and
loss statement. Yes.
And you should be getting one of those quarterly, right?
Every month you should get a P&L. Okay.
Okay.
So
and my CPA gives me those, right?
Your bookkeeper can give them to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or your CPA. They could be the same person, but they don't have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate CPAs. They drive me insane.
They're just trying to do a good job, man.
No, they're just trying to like make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and the signatures are all in the right spot.
Yeah.
But they miss the point.
The point is to do a good job.
No,
the government says is a good job.
So this is the problem with CPAs. CPAs, a lot of bookkeepers, a lot of like business coaches, a lot of even just employees. They miss the main point of the business,
which is to stay busy.
No, the main point of the business is not to stay busy. It's not to do dumb stuff. It's not even really to take care of your customers. It's not to have a happy place to work. It's not to cross your T's and dot your I's. It's to make money. It's the only reason the business owner is there in the first place. Without that, nothing else matters.
True.
Employees don't have jobs if there's no money to be made. There's no T's to cross or I's to dot, right? So, it's the hardest thing to get across to employees, because when you tell them that, all they hear is, you just want me to make you more money. And that's not yes, I want to make as much money as possible because that's the point of the business. Because if we do that, we can make all those other things way better.
Sure. Yeah.
We can pay you more. We can make this a better place to work. We can grow this business. We can do things that we can't do if we don't have more money being made. That's a tough one. But it's my pet peeve with CPAs. They want to, some of them want to avoid taxes, which I'm fine with, but you don't want to avoid taxes at the cost of making more money.
Yeah.
I would rather just make more money and pay my taxes.
Right.
And they don't think like that.
No.
Drives me insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back to margin pricing.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the moral of the story really quick is if you don't have a bookkeeper and there's money coming into your bank account, please, for the
Just
love,
go get a bookkeeper already.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, please, for the love.
Find one that, if you're just starting out, then find one that charges you hourly. Your first like month or two might cost you some money, but from there it'll be super cheap.
Yep.
Because they don't have to do hardly anything.
No, and you need that P&L.
You need it.
Like having a story about your business is not your business.
Yes.
And everybody says like, "Oh, I feel like I'm doing good," or it seems to be doing okay.
The P&L is your report card.
True. That's a good way to think about it.
You need to look at that P&L and go, you need to understand it and go, what is this telling me? And what does it mean? And what changes do I need to make?
Yeah.
And it's all the information is right there.
Yep.
You look at that top line revenue number. If it doesn't matter what it is, there's money coming in. Where did it go?
Yeah.
It's all on your report card.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to learn. It has to be organized properly.
Yeah.
And you have to understand how to look at it.
Yeah.
Which we could do a whole nother episode on.
Yeah.
But we'll get into some of that in this because we'll have to.
Yeah.
So we talk about pricing on this podcast probably more than anything else because it's one of the most important things. It's where most guys go wrong. Most guys are underpriced, right? They don't understand their value.
Would you also say it's one of the easiest things to fix?
Would you agree with that? It's literally the easiest thing to fix.
Yeah.
Like
it seems like it can move the needle almost more than anything, and it's also one of the easiest things that you can do.
it'll move the needle more than anything, and it's the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah, that's why we talk about it a lot.
Yes.
Because it's like an obvious thing that's like, come on, if you guys would just do this, like I promise. Like,
yeah, and like if you're in business and you're under $400 an hour, the easiest thing is just go start charging $400 an hour.
Yeah.
If you're under 400, you're losing money.
Yeah.
I guarantee, I don't care where you're at, what your economic situation is around you, you're losing money. Hands down. You just can't do it for any less. So typical way of pricing, right, is we take our expenses of running our business and we divide them by how many hours we have available to bill the customer. Okay. So let's just do an example. And this is very typical. For a 3-man shop with an owner, 3 guys out in the field working, a CSR in the office, a shop, 3 vans, they're on Service Titan, they've got iPads, they've got uniforms, they have a healthy marketing budget. It costs that business about $1 million a year to run, okay? If you add up all the numbers, okay? So that business has 3 revenue-generating employees. That is the 3 technicians. Those 3 guys are going to work roughly 2,080 hours a year.
can I ask you a real quick question?
Yeah.
How do you strictly define what is revenue generating employees?
People out in the field doing the work are revenue generating.
Can you define it in the term of a negative? Like if they weren't there, then no revenue would come in. Would that also help you figure it out?
Yeah. Like if the CSR wasn't there, the techs could still go to their jobs and produce revenue.
Yeah.
Like they are the ones actually doing the work, billing the customer.
Yeah. Without them, there would be no way to, because the CSR couldn't go and make money.
Correct. And so in terms of your P&L, right, you have top line revenue is what you hear a lot, or total sales, like how much cash came into your business, okay? Then underneath that, you have COGS, okay? So COGS are cost of goods sold. Every single business on the planet buys and resells stuff.
Yeah.
That's like what business is at its core, okay? So a plumbing business buys and resells materials, skilled labor, and subcontractors. Okay? So we take our top line revenue, we subtract out our COGS, our materials, our labor, our subcontractors, and what's left over is called your gross profit. Okay?
Why is it called that?
Because it's your gross before you take out your overhead.
All your other stuff?
Yeah. Gross is before, net is after, right? So it's like your profit on the jobs, right? If you were to think of it that way.
Okay, yeah. Just thinking about like your COGS and then the costs associated with your COGS and then the money that you made in on the jobs.
Yep. So it's like, okay, here's the money I brought in from the jobs.
Okay.
The COGS are how much it costs you to do those jobs.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
Based on the stuff you buy and resell.
Yes.
What's left over is the profit from those jobs.
Yeah.
Now we have to cover overhead, and then we have net profit left at the bottom. Okay.
Okay, I understand. So your gross profit, is your sales minus your COGS.
Yes.
Okay.
People in your COGS, in this instance, they are the revenue generating employees.
Okay.
They are the ones generating revenue.
Okay.
Anybody who does not generate revenue, office staff like CSRs, general managers, apprentices that don't bill out themselves, they just assist in making revenue, they're all overhead.
What about if you had like a sales guy?
Sales guy would be overhead.
Yeah, okay. Because the assumption would be that technician could sell. Is that the assumption? Like, or that sales guy isn't necessary for that technician to make money for the company.
Correct.
It's just how we run it.
He is not a cost of the particular job, right? His commission, however, like if he was getting a commission, which is typically how you would pay a sales guy, I would put that up in COGS.
Yeah, because that's directly associated. But if he was like a salaried sales guy, which doesn't sound normal,
I would never do that.
Yeah, because there's no incentive for that guy to do anything.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to sell well.
Yeah.
So I guess in the terms of a sales guy, I'd probably put him in COGS all the time.
Yeah.
As a direct cost to my jobs.
Okay.
But things like vans, gas, insurance, like business insurance, no. Part of your labor costs is the health insurance on that labor. Any benefits you pay to your technicians.
Directly associated to labor.
Yep. All that stuff goes up in COGS. Workers' comp, keep it down below in overhead.
Why?
Because it's a business expense.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's where I put it. That's where I would put it.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want, right? But you have to understand what's in there and understand what numbers you need to hit.
And then, you have to understand what percentage, what ratios you need to hit.
Yes. If you keep it standard, right? So you have technician, you have health insurance benefits, retirement benefits, employer taxes that you have to pay for that technician. If you have all that stuff up in COGS, that would be normal.
Yeah.
And then we can use normal metrics and compare our company to other companies that way.
Yeah, who are doing the normal thing.
Correct.
The thing that's been shown to work for a very long time.
For a very, 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 very long time.
Yes.
Okay. So those are revenue generating employees, okay? So typical way of pricing, we've got 3 guys working 2,080 hours. That's 6,000 something hours, 7,000. Does it get to 7,000? Yeah, it does. That's 7,000 something hours. Then we have to adjust for efficiency, okay? Because if we're doing service work, then we're not 100% efficient. There's no way. Like your guys,
they're not going to work 8 hours of every day.
No.
There's not a money being collected for the 8 hours that they're like on the clock.
they're not going to bill out 8 hours every single day. On average, it's 50 to 60% of their hours. So if you go with 55, they're going to bill out 1,100 hours throughout the year. Okay. So, and I've tracked ours, it's 55.4% of their time gets billed out. Okay. So what you do is you say, okay, well, I have to cover this $1 million of overhead in the 3,300 hours that my 3 techs are actually going to bill out to the customer.
Right.
And that's how you determine how much it costs you to run your business per billable hour. It'd be your billable expense rate is what we would call that. That gives you a number, and then you have to take that number and you have to mark it up for the desired profit margin.
Sure.
Okay. So what we would typically do is we would say, okay, well, I know we're going to have a membership plan where we're going to discount our members 10%. And I know that I want to hit 20% net on the bottom line, 20% net profit. So I need to mark this billable expense rate up by 30%. And markup is not the right word here. You want to hit 30% margin on that billable expense rate. So you would take that billable expense rate, you would divide by the inverse of the margin you want. So you would divide by 0.7, and that would give you your hourly rate. Okay. This is typical way of pricing.
Right.
Okay. So you have your hourly rate, and then you have, when you go to do a job, you have the time and you have the materials.
Right.
Okay.
Separate things.
The time you have said, okay, I'm marking up my time enough to cover all of my business expenses, my technician pay, everything except for materials.
Right.
Okay. Now, materials, the funny thing about materials that I have learned over the last year is that when you're looking at your P&L, right? We need our gross profit to be 50% minimum.
Right.
And that's very typical across the board.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the reason why you're shooting for 50% is because it is the typical thing that good businesses will run with that gross profit.
50% gross profit. Okay. So that's total income minus COGS gives you gross profit.
Material is within the COGS.
And this is typically how it pans out. It's total revenue is 100%. Labor is 25%. Materials is 20%. You should have 55% left over, right?
Got it.
Okay. And then you should have 30% overhead and 25% net on the bottom in a perfect world.
Perfect
right?
world.
Nothing is ever perfect
Sure.
on your P&L. You're never going to hit those numbers perfectly. And that 5% is going to go somewhere, I promise. Okay. So you end up hitting like 20% at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Either your labor costs got inflated somehow or you bought too many materials or whatever. So on our P&L, knowing we need to have 55% gross profit, if we don't mark our materials up enough, it's going to eat into our gross profit. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So in this case, I would mark up my materials a minimum of 120%. That's 54.5% gross profit. Okay. Okay. So that at the end of the day, your gross profit is 55%. You have enough money to cover all of your COGS, all of your overhead, and you're left with 20-ish at the bottom.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's the typical way of pricing. What I've learned is there are a couple problems with pricing this way. In the beginning of your business, I think that's probably the way to go. Up to about 3 guys.
What's the biggest argument for doing it that way in the beginning?
It's easier to understand.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
It's simple.
Yeah.
And because a lot of guys struggle with how much they have to charge, right?
Yeah.
And it directly relates how much they're charging for their hourly rate with their expenses.
Yeah, they can.
And it makes sense in their head, and it's easy for them to grasp, and it's something that they can own and push forward with.
And they can believe in it, and they understand it. There's a justification cycle of like, this, I have to do it this way.
Yes.
Like circling, like going back to earlier in the conversation, we were like, just charge $400 an hour. Like that'll work, but you don't understand it, so it's harder to believe in it.
Yes.
So,
but if you go through like our pricing calculator, which if you download our playbook, there's a free pricing calculator in there that walks you through the process we just talked about, right? And the thing is like, what if you need to be $450 an hour to cover your expenses?
yeah, 400 might not be enough. Especially
if you're charging $400, guess what? You making $0.
Yes.
So it's not. There is no like magic number that you can charge and be profitable.
Yeah.
Like I see guys go on Facebook groups, even our Facebook group. What are you guys charging for a faucet?
Yeah.
My answer is whatever I need to charge to be profitable.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, you need to figure it out. Right. Otherwise, you have no idea. You could be charging the customer way too much.
Yeah. And it kind of comes back to like the guys asking those questions, they're looking for that really simple answer.
Yes.
They're just looking for something that they don't have to put any effort into, that they can just get and apply.
Yeah.
And then,
Give me your price book so I can just use it.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
I promise. You're going to struggle.
And you're missing out on, it's the same thing as like, hey, Jared, can you build a spreadsheet for me? It's like, sure. No, I just missed out on a bunch of opportunity to learn.
And you don't
master my craft.
Yeah. And you don't actually understand your business.
No. And then, down the road, I won't know how to make my own spreadsheet or price my business properly.
Correct.
I won't even understand, like for the pricing example, like what happens when I add expenses. Like even guys in our course run into this.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, well, I got to cover all these expenses. So this, that, and the other thing. It's like, well, that's in your hourly rate.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. Like if you know how to price yourself, then added expenses, provided they're providing value to the customer and they're acceptable.
Correct.
You can handle them.
Correct. Okay.
So it's good in the beginning because it's very simple to understand.
Simple
you
to
can
understand.
believe in what you need to charge so that you can go out and make money.
It doesn't require an in-depth knowledge of your P&L. It doesn't require you to understand percentages and a little deeper level understanding of your business. So it's simple.
Yep.
And it works.
And it can get you off the ground, and you can, I mean, you price like that all the way till 5 million.
For the last 3 years, we've priced like that.
Yep.
We've done very well with it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I've been thinking about this other way of pricing for a long time now, probably like 9 months, 9 to 10 months. Okay. And the reason, well, let's go through like what it is. I've been thinking about it for 9 months. It's taken me 9 months to adopt it because I needed to understand it through and through.
Sure.
I needed enough reason to say this is a better way to go. And then I needed time to figure out how it applies to my business.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're considering throughout this 9 months, you're considering messing with like the core fundamental money generation tool in your business.
Correct.
So,
kind of.
Well, if you mess up your pricing, then that's puts you in a very rough spot.
Yes.
So if you're just willy-nilly like, we're going to try a new thing. Oh, it didn't work. We just lost a bunch of money. Oh, well, like.
Yes. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I recently switched my pricing over to is what's called margin pricing. Okay. And I saw lots of people on the internet touting margin pricing and saying, just shoot for 60% margin on your P&L. So 60% gross on your P&L. And then you're good. And I thought, that's too easy.
Yeah.
There's no way that I can just shoot for that and hope all is well, right? Because my business is not their business, and my business, I need to understand my business and how this is going to affect my business.
How could there be like a blanket statement like that accounts for all the nuances of Alaska business versus Florida business versus et cetera?
Exactly. So what margin pricing essentially is you're taking your COGS, okay? So we have materials, we have labor, and we have subcontractors. And we're saying, okay, I know I need to hit a certain gross margin on my P&L. So if I take the cost of those and I mark them up enough to hit my desired margin, that's how much I charge for the job. So you're taking your labor cost, you're taking your material cost, your subcontractor cost, and you're dividing those by the inverse of the margin you want to hit on your P&L. And you're saying, bada bam, that's my price.
Okay, give me an example of that so I can understand what you just said.
Okay. And here's a good example. And we're going to go outside plumbing business. We're going to go back to the old pottery cup scenario. Okay?
Ah, man, the best business that you haven't made.
My dad owns a pottery business. He made this cup. No, he didn't make this cup. He makes cups very similar to this.
Yeah.
This is made by Stokes Pottery. But you can go to, I think it's glacierpottery.com. It's in Montana. You can go buy his stuff online. Nice cups. Very good potter. His COGS are the labor to make this cup, okay, and the materials to make this cup. So for simple math, let's say it's an hour of labor, all in to make this cup. That might be in different stages, and it's $100. It's not $100. Let's say it's $10 in materials, okay? And let's say for a pottery business, like typical pottery business, overhead is 30%, and he wants to make 20% profit, right? So 30%, 20% is 50%.
Yep.
So we would need at least a 50% gross profit to hit 20% net on the bottom, okay? So we take 100% of revenue minus 30% overhead minus 20% profit, leaves us with 50%, okay? So I would probably want to shoot for 55% margin on my P&L. Give myself a 5% buffer.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, for this pottery business, let's say my dad pays himself $30 an hour, okay, to throw pots, and we have $10 in material cost. Now, on the labor, there's benefits that are going to get paid with that. Like your technicians, you're going to pay benefits on. But for this instance, let's just say the only added cost to his labor is employer taxes. And let's say it's 10%. So it goes up to $33, okay? So his labor cost is $33. His material costs are $10. So he has a total cost to build this cup is $43. Okay. Now he wants to hit 55% margin on his P&L. So he would divide by the inverse. So he would divide by 0.45.
And how do you know to divide by the inverse?
That's just
how the math works.
It's the equation.
This is a dumb question.
Yeah.
Couldn't you multiply by the 55%? Is that the same thing as dividing by the inverse?
No, because you're going
to
get a smaller number.
Yeah, true. So if you divide by the inverse, you get a bigger number.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you can multiply by one or the other and then add it to the cost, but you can save that whole step if you just divide.
And you're dividing by a percentage, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're dividing by 45%.
Yeah. Because you're going for 55 gross
which would be
margin.
0.45.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. You can do this in a spreadsheet and you can put in percentages and then you don't have to think about the really 0.45.
Cool. Yeah.
But you have to do, divided by 100% minus whatever your desired margin is.
Yeah, can you explain that to me really quick? Because you put that in our spreadsheets, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, why does Jared do this again?
So on a spreadsheet, like if I put in one cell, like labor cost 33, material cost 10, and then I put total cost 43, and then I said desired margin is 55%, and then I would put cost, like sales price. The equation would be the total cost of the cup divided by, and then in parentheses, you have to put 100% minus what you want your final margin to be, right?
Yeah,
so it's taking 100%
margin in there.
minus 55% leaves you with your 45%. So it allows you to divide by the
dividing
inverse.
by the inverse.
Yeah.
But yeah, the formula allows you to then change the box with your margin in there so that you can see it change.
Correct. And then you can see it on a spreadsheet.
Got it, boss.
And that's the best way to do it because
I knew I'd get your help on that spreadsheet eventually.
Yeah. There you go.
Got him.
Got me. That's the best way to do any of this is on a spreadsheet because then you can go in and say, okay, well, what if my margin needs to be 60%?
Yeah, what's it look like?
And you just get updated information on all that stuff. What if my cost goes up? Now how much do I need to charge?
Yeah.
You just put it back in your spreadsheet, right?
Because real-time data with that stuff is really important because otherwise you might not make money and then you see it on your next P&L and you're like, oh, crap.
Correct.
Something changed.
Yeah.
What changed?
So he's all in, $43.
Yeah.
We want to hit a 55% margin. So we divide by 0.45. He would have to charge $95.56 for this cup to hit a 55% margin on his P&L. So if he worked 1 hour and paid himself 1 hour and sold one cup at $95.56, total revenue.
It's an expensive cup your dad's got there.
Dude, I think he could sell them for that. That's the crazy part. Total revenue at the top of your P&L, like total sales would be $95.56. Okay?
Yes. Okay.
Labor cost would be $33. Material cost would be $10. And then you would have 55%
to disperse between your margin and your overhead.
You'd have 55% of $95.56. Let's figure out what that is. $52.55 would be your gross profit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Gotcha.
So that is cup by cup. So now he knows every cup I sell, whether it's $30 in materials and $5 in labor, or $30 in labor and $5 in materials, as long as I price it for margin, I could sell all materials or all labor, and I'm going to hit my margin on my P&L.
And as long as he had some way to like input that into something so that when he's charging for that cup, it's accounting for differences in material and labor for like he made a giant cup, he'd have a price book, we'll say, and he said, "Oh, this is the price book for giant cup."
Yeah,
and then
he'd be like, "Here's my labor in it. Here's my material costs. Here's the margin I need," and it would spit it out.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's essentially what margin pricing is.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like it's like a task by task.
It's taking the cost, and then so is hourly rate pricing.
Sure.
It's task by task. It's taking hours and materials.
Sure.
And it's saying, okay, I charge this much for my hours, and I mark up materials this much.
Yeah, on this task. Yeah.
Instead, what we're doing is we're saying, here's the cost of my labor, here's the cost of my materials, and we're marking both of those up this much.
Right, because I just need to get. I just need to get to my desired gross profit margin.
Correct.
And if I hit that, everything else will work out.
Correct. As long as we do enough revenue. Right?
Yeah, because if you don't do enough revenue, then if you're just not busy, question mark?
Well, yeah. Or as long as your overhead isn't more than 30% of your top line revenue.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
And that's a different problem. That's an overhead problem.
Right. You either didn't do enough work or you just fat on overhead.
But it's nice to know that it's narrowed it down to two things.
Yeah.
Not like however many things it could be.
Correct. Yep. So for your plumbing business, it gets a little bit more complicated.
Man. Gosh.
And this is what took me forever to figure out, to just really actually think through. But this is also the thing that made me want to do it. Okay? So, and then when we're done explaining this, we'll go into like real world how this affected my pricing, okay, and what it did to the guys out in the field. Okay. So with your plumbing business, you have to adjust for efficiency still. Okay?
Efficiency defined as what?
Efficiency, like if your guys are working an 8-hour day and they only bill out 4 hours a day, like on average, they're only billing out 55% of their hours. I know that.
Yeah.
The time they work versus the time they bill out is 55%, right? And if we don't adjust, like your labor cost on that 55% is actually higher than just the hourly labor cost of your guys.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be higher if they bill out 100%, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So when they work 8 hours and they bill out 4, let's say they're $50 an hour, they really cost me $100 an hour.
Yeah.
Billable, right?
Yep.
So when I'm figuring my labor costs, I have to factor in efficiency in there, okay?
Okay. Is there... Okay, that's fine. Never mind. Keep going.
So this is how it works for my company, okay? So I have my labor cost at $55 an hour. That's what they make. I also take that $55 an hour and I adjust it for overtime.
Okay.
Because
how do you factor, like, how do you figure that out?
55 times 50 divided by 40. And that tells me, I think, well, we'll just do the math. Just do the math here. What that says is, okay, they're going to work 50. And they typically don't work 50, but it's time and a half if they work those 10 hours. So I just use 50.
Okay.
So 55 times 50 is 2,750. That's what they would make if they worked some overtime.
Yeah.
Which is service work. They end up working some overtime. It's totally normal.
Sure.
So we need to account for it. And then I divide that by 40. So that bumps their hourly cost up to $68.75.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, I understand.
So that
if you had crews who were running like 60 hours all the time, then you would use 60 instead of 50.
So on a spreadsheet, I would put labor cost 55, and then I would put efficiency, or then I would put adjusted for overtime, and it would say 68.75. And I'd put that equation in there, right?
And you'd have a little box where you could change the overtime hours, so you could play with that to just see, whoa, if guys do less overtime, what does it look like? If they do more, what does it look like?
Yes, but I would use 50.
Sure.
Pretty
good bet.
Yes, I went and pulled a bunch of data to come up with that number.
Yeah, I assume so, yeah.
So my true labor cost is really like $68.75 just for the guy.
Yeah.
To be on site, not even adjusted for efficiency.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no bennies.
No bennies yet.
Okay.
So then I'm going to take that number and I'm going to adjust it for benefits.
Okay.
if you don't know what your benefits cost, there's two ways you can calculate this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's really three ways. Number one, you can just add up, okay, I pay them this much per hour. You can adjust for overtime, and then you can say, okay, I need to add on whatever it costs me per hour for all of their benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever it costs me per hour for the employer portion of their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And you can come up with a true labor rate.
Sure.
If your guys don't have benefits yet, you can just take this number, multiply it by 1.4.
And is that factoring in like
That will leave,
general benefit?
that will leave
stuff
you enough money for health insurance,
to add bennies when
a
you
401k,
Okay.
typical benefits. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
It's pretty standard. It actually works out within pennies for my company. If you have P&L data,
Mm-hmm.
you can go back and you can say, okay, what did I spend on labor and how many guys did I have working and how many hours did they work? And you can take how much you spent versus how many hours they worked, and you get a true labor cost, right? With all the benefits included. Okay. That's another easy way to check it. I did it all three ways and came up with extremely close numbers.
Sure.
And I just now multiply by 1.4 because it's way easier and it's within pennies.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the next step. I take this 68.75 and I times by 1.4. So my guys, by the time they're paid all their benefits, are $96.25 an hour.
Pre-efficiency, right?
Pre-efficiency. So now we need to, so that was adjusted for benefits. Now we need to adjust for efficiency.
Okay.
Okay. So for service work, I'm going to take this $96.25 and I'm going to adjust it for efficiency. And I think I'm going to do, I don't remember if you divide here. No,
I feel like, because it's going to go up, so I feel like you divide by the inverse of what you're looking for.
I think that makes it too high because really what it is, like if it was 50%, it would double, right?
Yeah, sure. And if it was 55%, and if you divided it by the inverse.
You want to times it by 1.55. Your efficiency plus 1 plus your efficiency times that.
Okay.
So it puts us at
gotcha.
total cost for these guys
$149
roughly.
Okay.
Okay. This is what it costs to have these
and
guys.
it's factoring efficiency. It's factoring full bennies, all the things.
Yep.
Gotcha.
To have these guys go out and bill out 1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my cost per employee.
Okay.
Okay. The only other thing that I want to make sure and cover in here is actually I'm going to cover this afterwards. Then we need to mark this up for desired margin on P&L. My overhead is typically 30% of total revenue. So I want to shoot for 55% margin on my P&L so that I have 45% to work with. Or so. Yeah, no, so I have 55% to work with.
Yeah.
And potentially 25% net at the bottom.
Yeah.
And a 5% buffer,
Yeah.
right? Okay. You're going to take this number and divide by 55. Sorry, the inverse. 149 divided by 0.45 for a 55% margin, right? Puts you at 331. Okay.
Okay.
I then want to take this number. I don't think we did that right. We got to stop doing math on this podcast.
I know.
We're terrible mathematicians.
We are terrible mathematicians.
When I'm going through a spreadsheet, I have to double check that I'm doing this right like a gazillion times.
Yeah, and I do the same thing just in a different way because my brain works differently than you. That's why watching you do a spreadsheet, I'm like, this doesn't help me.
Yeah, let's go back to that. Divided by 0.45. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'd have to look at my spreadsheet again. So, but you're going to factor for efficiency, okay? So if these guys cost me $149, is that what it was to bill out 1 hour? Their total cost was 68 something.
Yeah, you ended up at 96 once you factored in the benefits package.
96. There we go.
Yeah. But then you did 90, and then the efficiency was the part where you times it by 1.55.
Yep. And it really is 174. I think
Okay.
you want to divide by
Oh,
I think you want to divide by 0.55.
Okay.
That gives you your 55% efficiency.
Okay.
And then we're going to divide by the inverse to get our margin, which is 387.
Yeah.
This is the real number. So my guys, to hit 55% margin on my P&L, I need to do 387.
Okay.
But I also give 10% discounts to my members, right? So I adjust for a membership in there as well. So I divided this by 0.10 again. That is not right.
387.
87. I need to add 10% to it. It's 425. So that's my new hourly rate, 425. So I know if I'm 55% efficient and I charge 425 and I pay my guys $55 an hour, I'll hit 55% margin on my P&L.
Gotcha.
Okay? Make sense?
Yep. I think so.
Now here's what's crazy. This is $200 an hour cheaper than what I was charging.
Yeah.
So how the hell is that going to work?
Yeah. How are you going to make money? Like, where's the secret sauce?
Here's the secret sauce. Beforehand, I was basically charging $200 more per hour to cover all of my overhead, right? But what I was negating to think about was that I can make money on materials as well and cover overhead that way.
Where before you weren't making money on materials, you were just marking them up just enough so that your P&L would hit that 55% gross profit.
Correct.
So you were making money on your labor, and your materials were they just had to be what they had to be to hit that 55%.
Correct.
Okay.
So here's the thing that nobody ever thinks about is efficiency on your materials.
Like if you buy too much kind of efficiency?
Correct. Service work, your efficiency on materials is total garbage. It really is.
It probably varies tech to tech too.
Your guys need
some
190, they buy 590s, right?
Yeah.
They run into something in the wall and they didn't realize they were going to have to put in 10 more 90s and they go pull them out of the truck without billing the customer for it.
Yeah, because there's
right? Because they got to get it done.
Yeah.
They gave the customer a price, they got to get it done. So I went back and looked at all of my data for the last 2 years, how many materials we billed for, like the dollar cost on service work, and how many materials we actually bought for service work. Guess what my percentage is?
I have no idea.
It's 55%. We billed for 55% of materials.
So you bill, and you wanted to bill for 100,
I wanted to bill
120%?
I wanted to bill for 100% of materials.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen.
Yeah. So you lost almost half of your money.
It does not happen. You have an efficiency on service work in materials. And so we need to overcome that inefficiency. Before we were overcoming that inefficiency by marking up our materials, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
as you
now
thought you were.
we need to mark up our materials for efficiency. Plus, we need to make money on those materials to help cover overhead. We need to still hit 55% margin and account for inefficiency on materials. So what if you go through and do that math, it ends up being a 75% gross margin on materials for service work.
Okay.
So our labor rates, we're shooting for an 87% gross margin, and our material, we're shooting for a 75% gross margin. Okay. The effect this has on the pricing, real world pricing out in the field, and this is the only reason I switched to it. And then we'll talk about some other benefits that we happen to stumble upon. And we'll just use the example that I gave my guys when I was pitching this to them. So old pricing on a P-trap, we go to somebody's house and they have a P-trap that has a crack in it, plastic P-trap. It's like a $10 part, okay? Before it would be, people are going to argue with this, but it's 20 minutes to drive to their house. It's 10 minutes to say hello and look at their problem. And then it's 30 minutes to build the estimate, sell the work, get the P-trap, replace the P-trap, clean up your mess, and bill the customer. You have an hour into that P-trap, okay? So it would be $610 for the labor, and we would mark the material, the $10 material up
This is previous pricing.
120%. So it'd be $22. And the total price would be $632 to replace a P-trap. Okay. If you run the cost analysis on that based on our labor cost, our margins on that are huge. They're like 98% or something like that, right? Now, on new pricing, we're $430 an hour, but we're at a 300% markup because we're trying to hit 75% margin is a 300% markup, okay? So we're $430 in labor and we're $40 in material cost. Big difference.
Yeah.
What is that? 40, 50, 60, 70. Now we're $470 versus $610 to change out a P-trap.
Yeah.
But yet we're still making enough money on that P-trap to hit net profits at the bottom, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just trying to anyway, just
so
keep going.
the effect of that is conversion rates on P-traps or anything similar go up.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and that's just the effect. You're not factoring that into the profitability of your company. That's just a bonus, right? Like the pricing,
profitability is factored in there.
Yeah, but it is. But the pricing, the margin pricing model isn't saying, hey, if you do this, you're going to close more deals, and that's going to make you make more money.
No,
yeah,
we're going to make the same amount of money closing the exact same amount of deals. But if we can close more deals, right,
you can increase your close rate efficiency.
If I can
just as a byproduct,
if I can increase my close rate efficiency as a byproduct, I make more money.
Yeah, you're taking more advantage of the opportunities that you have.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So close rates, I believe, on P-traps are going to go up just because it's cheaper. More people are going to be willing to pay $480 than $610. Okay. So anything that is high labor value and low material cost, those prices went down.
Yeah.
Because our labor rates went down. Okay. Material costs went up, labor rates went down. On the inverse, okay, let's take another example. Let's say we have a job that's $1,000 in materials and it's 1 hour of labor. The old pricing, we would have charged $2,200 for the materials.
Right. Right.
And we would have charged $610 for the labor. It would have been $26, $27, $28, $2,810, right? Or $2,200. It would have been $2,800, $2,810. Okay, $2,810 for the job. Old pricing. Guess what our margins are on that? They're less than what we need them to be. We're actually losing money on that job.
And you ran the cost analysis on jobs similar to that one?
Yeah.
You end up losing or less margins.
Yeah. So what we were doing is we were charging more for P-traps to make up for jobs like that.
You were
right?
stealing from P-traps to pay.
And they were balancing each other out.
Yeah.
Which works. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It works. Now let's run the margin pricing. We're $430 for the 1 hour, but now for the $1,000 of materials, we charge $4,000. So this job that was $2,800 is now like $4,000 some dollars, right? Big difference, right? What we found is like most things in our price book, right? The high labor stuff, low material, got cheaper. There's a whole range in the middle where everything pretty much stayed the same.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And then there's this whole other range where they're kind of medium labor, medium material cost. And those jobs got slightly more expensive. So like on average, like a $1,500 or $1,600 item went to like $1,700 or $1,800.
Right.
So when you think about the conversion rates on these, right? Conversion rate on a P-trap, the difference between 480 and 610 is a big difference.
Yeah.
The difference between a $1,600 job and an $1,800 job isn't that big of a difference.
Right.
It's not a much harder sell because it's $200 more.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe conversion rates will go up. Yeah. Okay. Here's the other beauty, the thing that took me a long time to think all the way through and to really understand and to set it up in ServiceTitan this way. when you price this way, it allows you to easily adjust for efficiency. Okay. So when my guys work an 8-hour day and they bill out 4 hours, they're only 50% efficient. When my guys can work an 8-hour day but bill out 6 hours, all of a sudden they're way more efficient. Okay. And on higher dollar material costs, like let's take that $1,000 job, right? So maybe that's a water heater. Well, on water heater jobs, we're fairly efficient with our materials.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Because the water heater is the bulk of the cost.
Yeah.
Right? It's like $800 for the water heater and $200 for the other parts. We rarely go over on materials.
I usually don't go like, give me 2 of those water heaters today. Might need a bonus.
So our efficiency on higher dollar amount and higher hour tasks, right, goes up. So essentially what we've done is we've created 3 different pricing buckets in our price book, okay? So we have service pricing, which is anything 4 hours and under. We have install pricing, which we have an 80% efficiency rate on.
Sure.
Which is anything 8 hours or multiple days, goes under install pricing. Also with our installs, for us, it's like, you know, we do a bunch of new boiler installs. We're really efficient on our materials. And so our labor rate for installs went all the way down to like $230.
Wow. Super cheap.
Super cheap. So essentially last month, we sold way more of the installs that we estimated because we were able to do them cheaper and still make margin at the end of the day.
Yeah, because that's what you're really shooting for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those conversion rates on those already have gone up. Then we created a third bucket that's anything between 5 and 8 hours. Okay. So like water heaters, water pumps. And before anybody argues, there's no way a water heater takes 5 hours. Go watch go look at your past data. By the time that technician drives to their house, looks at the work, talks to the customer, builds estimates, sells the work, goes and gets the heater, fills it back up, makes sure it's not leaking, cleans up his mess, bills the customer, takes the old water heater to the dumpster, and goes to his next job. It's 5 hours.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. It's not just like, it's not like a factor of like, I can throw in a water heater so fast. Like there's all the other parts too.
But here's the deal. So even if your water heater task is only 4 hours, bump it to 5. Because your efficiency on those jobs goes up.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
sure.
it gives your technicians more time to be at the house and do a better job.
Yeah.
Right? And here's the thing, by bumping it to 5, we bumped a lot of our tasks from 4 to 5 hours to move them into this new pricing category, which seems counterintuitive. But what it does is it gives our guys more time on site. It's more realistic for how long it actually takes. And we are able to offer the customer a cheaper price on that stuff because our efficiency goes up.
Yeah.
So even though we're only going from like a 55% efficiency to a 65% efficiency, the cost difference to the customer is insane. And the material efficiency goes up as well. So like on those jobs, we only mark them up 160%.
So you're not even that much higher than your previous markup.
No, but our labor rate's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
So our cost on those things actually went down. And the beauty of this, right? We have better conversion rates on things like P-traps. Everything in the middle stays the same. Now, anything over 5 hours, we have better conversion rates. Okay. This is what we learned that I think is it's the nail in the coffin for me on margin pricing.
Yeah. Did you learn this while you were thinking about it, or did you learn this after you started to implement
After we implemented it.
Okay.
I was sitting, we have a guy that works for us. His name is Bobby. He's the man.
Shout out to Bobby.
Shout out to Bobby. He's the man of the hour. When I go back to town, he shakes my hand, looks me in the eyes and says, "Thank you. This is the best job I've ever had."
Dude, man, any employee that... Man.
And it's cool. It's cool to know that he appreciates it, and I appreciate that he tells me that he appreciates it. It's good. Because I put a lot of time into the company and I want it to be a good place to work.
Yeah, and that's the response that you want from your guys.
And it's nice that it just goes appreciated.
Yeah.
It's not overlooked, right? Yeah. Bobby also is top revenue producer for our company. And he's just a cool dude. Yeah. Nice guy. So we have what's called a custom task section in our price book. And it's basically where we built out categories and subcategories and subcategories in Service Titan, where our guys can go in and they select how long the job is going to take and what the material cost is, and then it spits out a price for them. And so what Bobby did is if you were to look at our custom task, there's no 5-hour task. And I did that on purpose in the beginning because if they think they're going to be there for 5 hours, I want them to bid it for 6.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Even if they think they're going to be there for 4, I'm like, you guys should bid this for 6.
Yeah.
Because chances of it taking longer are very high.
Yeah.
So I didn't put a 5-hour task.
You just said
there.
It's not an option. You go straight to 6.
You get like 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and then 6.
That's so funny.
And then it goes to 8.
You just looked at 5. It's like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And 7. 4, 5s, and 7.
Yeah.
Damn.
So Bobby I'm up in the mezzanine working on my laptop, and he went up there to pull up his job, and he was sending an estimate to a customer. And he goes, how come there's not a 5-hour custom task? And I said, I just made all these changes in the price book. Anything 5 hours and over is now in the 65% efficient, 180% markup on materials. And I said, go look at the cost difference between a 4-hour job that you're bidding and a 5-hour job that you're bidding. And he looked at it and he goes, the 5 hour is cheaper than the 4-hour. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I'm going to bid it for 8 hours because it's like close to the same cost as the 4. And I said, awesome, go do it. And he looked at me and he said, I'm doing this selfishly because I want to get more hours. So we give our guys pay bumps based on how many hours they sell, right? And so if they can sell 8 hours and then go get it done in 4 and then go to another job and sell more hours, they're more likely to hit their pay bump for the week, right? And I said, perfect. I want you to make more money. I want to give you the ability to sell more hours. And he goes, okay. So he bid it for 8. It was like a $4,300 job. He got the work. He got it done in 4 hours. And then he went and sold another, what did he sell? Another 3.5 hours, second half of his day. So that day he sold 11.5 hours. He worked 8 hours. Super efficient. Right. And I made all my margin.
Right.
Okay. So what we discovered is through this lesson, right? I was looking at Bobby and I said, well, what's on that job? Oh, a bunch of stuff. I got to go do a ton of stuff. And typically what we would have done in the past is we would have bid each individual portion of that job separately.
Yeah, sure, because it's all different stuff with different time requirements, different material things, all the things.
But because he bundled all of those things into one task and bid it at 8 hours, it drove the cost down for the customer.
Yeah, in comparison to what it would be before.
Even if we just still broke it down individually, right?
Yeah,
if it was 8 1-hour tasks, it would fall in the more expensive pricing category. But because we bundle it all together and we're at the customer's house for longer periods of time, it makes us more efficient. And because we're spending more on materials in general, we get more efficient with our materials when we do that. We're able to drive the cost down for the customer, increase conversion rates on that more expensive work, right? Because now we can go to the customer and we can say, hey, if you do these all individually, here's what it's going to cost.
You almost have a price anchoring
But
mechanism.
if we bundle all this together under one bid, we can get it done much cheaper here.
Yeah.
It's like a no-brainer for the customer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Crap, for you guys to come do this individually, it's 10 grand. For you to do it all right now, it's $4,800.
Yeah.
Let's do it now.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. So instead of being like, hey, man, like, because previous it'd be like, okay, well, here's all your options. We got a bunch of stuff to do. I recommend minimum this. Later we can come back and do this. Like, you're looking at this.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you're just like, hey, like, I looked at it and like, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So now we're going back through and we're training our guys how to bundle,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm. Because it's a huge sales tool. We go to tons of houses, thousands of houses, and they all have tons of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
And it's if we can point out all of those problems and say, look, to fix each of these individually, it's this. If we bundle it all up and do them all at once, it saves you a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. They're going to have to be fixed anyway at some point.
Yeah. They're things you need to get repaired anyways. And if we bundle them up and I'm here long enough, we can get them repaired at a much cheaper rate. Okay. That's good for the customer.
Right.
Saves them money. It increases conversion rates for me, right? Because technically we can offer that at a cheaper rate,
Right.
and I still make margin on it. So I'm happy,
Yeah.
right? And we're probably going to sell more of them now, which should just increase top line revenue because my conversion rates are going to go up, right? Here's the best part is now for the technician, they have the ability to sell more hours.
Yeah, sure.
And to them, so technicians, they like to do what's right for the customer. Like they're good, like all my guys are really good people, right? Like deep down, they're nice guys. They have the customer's best interest at heart. They don't want to screw anybody over. They really want to get the cost down as cheap as possible for the customer. And they feel good doing that.
Yeah.
And more power to them, right? This puts that ability in their hands.
Sure. Yeah, if they think about it and they really like bundle in a good way, do some problem solving, then they can really achieve that goal.
Yeah. Now they can go to a customer's home. They can bundle up their problems. They can save the customer money. They can bill more hours for themselves and make more on their paycheck and take better care of their family. Plus the company makes more money. That is a win-win-win all around. Everybody in that scenario wins just by us thinking about our pricing differently. That's awesome. I think it's rad. So I should be able to add $1 million of revenue to my company this year by making this change. That's my prediction.
Yeah. And that's just because it seems like it just tightens all the efficiencies like really well.
Correct.
Like it doesn't leave any weird odds and ends that are hanging out that the other pricing system does.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas before we were robbing Peter to pay Paul,
Yeah.
this evens it all out,
Yeah.
allows us to adjust for efficiency. Then that allows us to be able to bundle things into more efficient packages for the customer, which then allows conversion rates to be better on both ends, on the more expensive end or on the higher labor end because now we're cheaper, and on the low dollar cost materials, low labor end, we're also cheaper. Conversion rates are going to go up.
Yeah.
I'm still going to make margin.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be happy. It's a win-win-win. And I think going into 2024, it's a little different times. Call volumes are down, right?
Yeah, you got to make the best of every little thing you get.
We got to make the best of every call we get. And customers' wallets are tighter.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
They're not spending money like they used to. So we need to do what we can to have more efficient systems in our business to still make money and drive the cost down.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a very wise innovation. How was it when you were pitching it to your guys? How did that process go?
They were like, yeah, let's try it. I said, let's try it for a month. We'll see how it goes. If it sucks, we'll revert back.
So far, how's it going?
So far, to all of them, it's like they love it. They were on board like day 2. They were like,
sure.
oh,
They had
all
one
this,
day of experience.
they're
of
like,
wait a
all this
second.
stuff over here is cheaper and easier to sell.
Yeah.
Then when we discovered bundling, they haven't quite caught on to that yet. Like a couple of them have. Like Bobby's like, I'm selling 5-hour jobs every time. I'm like, you should, because it's better for the customer. And then, so on our training, we're going through scenarios. What we're doing is we're pulling past jobs that they were at.
How could you have bundled this?
And we can say, okay, let's take a look at this job. How could we have bundled this for the customer? Okay, so here's an example of one that I saw yesterday. Technician went to a customer's house. We have a pre-built task for replacing a washer box, cutting out the sheetrock, cutting the lines, going and grabbing a new washer box, popping a new one in. framing it out and putting the sheetrock back.
Mm-hmm.
It's 4 hours, 4-hour task.
Mm-hmm.
So he put that on the estimate. He also put a 2-hour task to replace some drain lines and stuff in their crawl space.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a 6 hours worth of work there.
Yeah.
This was a $5,800 invoice
Yeah.
or estimate.
Yeah.
Customer said no.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we won't get this work in the future,
Sure.
but customer said no.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went back and we said, hey, think about this for a second. If instead of doing this in 2 separate tasks, if you would have done a 6-hour custom task with these materials on there, this job would have been $3,200
Oh, wow. Holy moly.
because of the increased efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have sold 6 hours that day,
Mm-hmm.
which would have given this in particular guy his pay bump probably,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so just getting them to see that and realize it and then practice it in the field is going to take some work. But
Yeah.
I think once they see it,
Yeah.
they'll start doing it.
And they'll start to imagine the jobs in that context when they get there.
Correct.
They'll be like, oh, I have all these tasks. How can I sort of, like, what can I do to make this better for the customer?
Correct. So, and even in this guy's situation, he could have bid this for 7 hours, gave himself an extra hour of time on the job, and it still would have been cheaper for the customer.
Yeah, than the
Right.
previous method.
Yep. And then he wouldn't have had to rush through the job to get it done.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, that's cool.
I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be awesome.
I think a pricing structure that you can come in and then make it, like everything you said, like it's easier to sell, but you make a ton more money with it too.
Yes,
And
but you can see it's more confusing.
Yeah, well, you have to know more. Like, you have to have better data. Like, I mean, a lot of this conversation was about, in certain ways, getting data and then learning how to put it in spreadsheets and like analyze it and then
Yep.
having a P&L. Like,
Yep.
it definitely sounds like a lot harder thing to do if you're like just starting out and you have no data,
Yep.
except for just your own anecdotal experience
Yep.
to be able to like make this work. And I think it also requires like a higher level understanding of your business and your numbers and your pricing structures.
So here's the other beauty of this that we didn't touch yet. Yes, it does. It requires you to understand what a P&L is, because it's basically taking your P&L and adjusting your pricing so that it affects your P&L in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
So it's all based off your P&L.
Yeah.
It's based off total income minus COGS. I need this much gross profit. This is how I price. It allows you to track revenue and use that as a metric. Okay.
Oh, just top line revenue.
Yeah. Because when you take all of your expenses and you divvy it up into how many hours you have available, right? And then you're marking up materials. When you go do a job that's really high materials, low labor, you don't know how much of that is gross profit, right? Just by looking at the revenue, because material costs could be taking up a significant portion of that revenue. Well, when you're shooting,
because labor and materials is going to be separate within,
right?
Yeah, okay.
And so you end up needing to track hours sold. Okay, so
Yeah, because you can see the revenue, or excuse me, you can see the material cost, but if you're not tracking hours sold, then that's just
like revenue does you no good when you price that way.
Yeah.
So you have to track hours sold, which basically says, okay, I have to bill out this many hours to hit this certain profit percentage at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a math equation. And that's the number that you track. Now, but hours sold doesn't account for money you make off materials, right? But the money you make off materials can be all over the place, like we saw in the examples previously.
Yeah, you don't really know.
So you just don't look at it.
Yeah, because it's untrustworthy.
Yeah. And so this way, and here's the problems we ran into with hours sold. Like our membership, we have a free tune and clean. That free tune and clean takes 2 hours. My guys are paid off hourly pay bumps, right? The more hours they sell, the more they get paid. So in our price book, that task is worth 2 hours so that the technicians get 2 hours for doing it. But we bill out $0 for it.
Yeah, but you still pay your technician for the 2 hours.
But we still pay our technician for the 2 hours. We still have material costs for the 2 hours, all that good stuff. So when we go look at hours sold, we have to go look at hours sold minus
Tune and cleans.
Which
means then you have to have a whole other data set that you're tracking, which is just one more step that you can mess up.
And then we have to add back in our membership revenue for the month to decide whether or not we hit what we need to hit, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of steps in there that can really mess. It's not just like hours sold, good to go. It's like hours sold with a couple extra stuff that we have to think about.
Correct. Now, if you don't have a free tune and clean or anything that you're giving away for free,
that's fine.
no problem.
Yeah.
But if you switch to margin pricing, it gives us the ability to just track revenue because we know on labor and materials, we're hitting 55% margin.
And do you mean track revenue per job, per day, per week?
Everything.
Okay.
You can track it.
It works at all levels.
You can track it per job, per day, per week, per month, per quarter, per year, per technician.
Is there like a little
per department?
Do you have like a little like cheat sheet where you're like, each job has a desired revenue thing, and if you hit it, you're good, and if you don't hit it, you're not good?
So no matter what we sell,
Yeah.
like the idea is our job time efficiency needs to be 100%. Okay.
Okay.
So time spent on job versus time billed on job.
Okay. That needs to be
100%.
They have to agree.
So like that one day that I said where Bobby sold 11 some hours, but he only worked 8. He had like 170% job time efficiency, or 140% or something like that, right? So then the next day he could have a 60% job time efficiency and it would equal 100%, right?
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, if we don't have enough time on the tasks in our price book, our guys are never going to hit 100% job time efficiency.
Yeah, of course, because the thing's rigged against them in that sense.
Correct. By switching to margin pricing and building out this higher efficiency pricing model over here and showing the guys how to bundle, it allows them to hit 100% job time efficiency. Because on those jobs, right, for them now it's easier to say, okay, I think it's going to be 5, so I'm going to bid it for 6. It's only $200 more or $230 more. Sell that to the customer and they get it done in 5. Now they're an hour ahead, right? So if job time efficiency,
which I'd imagine is something that would happen even before, where it's just like a guy goes in and then the task is longer and he takes shorter.
Wrong. This is what happens. You ready? So the beauty of this is they're going to go, I can get this done in 4 hours, but if I bid it for 5, it's cheaper for the customer. And now I have 5 hours to get it done.
Yeah.
And if they get it done in 4 or 5, that's 100% job time efficiency. And I'm cool, right? Before, they would go, I think I can get this done in 4, but if I bid it for 5, it's really expensive. So I'm going to bid it for 4 and just try and slam and jam this so it's cheaper for the customer.
Yeah,
right?
I gotcha.
And then they do it in 5 and your job time efficiency is not 100%, right? That's what happens. So the goal should be to achieve 100% job time efficiency. The mistake that we've made is we built our price book and we said, here's the hours that it takes to do a task. And we need you to do 100% efficiency.
Sure. Yeah.
But what if the system, like what we failed to ask ourselves was like, what if the system that we gave our technicians to work within, it's impossible to produce 100% job time efficiency?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we had before.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have the system that you're driving your guys to try to hit these numbers that are impossible to hit.
And so we're driving our guys real hard to hit these numbers so they can get their pay bumps, but they didn't even feel like it was possible.
Yeah, because they looked at it and they're like, dude, I've done a lot of that task and I've never sniffed that what you want me to do.
Correct.
And
So like one thing we did when I was back in Alaska is I printed out our entire price book and we went through how long these tasks actually take with all of our guys. And then everybody, I printed out a copy of it for them and they got to fill in how many hours it took. Suggested time. If they knew material costs, they'd put material costs. Because a lot of the guys know a lot of the materials off the top of their head.
Yep.
And then we took all that data and we put it into a spreadsheet. We came up with average job time, max job time, minimum job time. And we used that data to set hours in our price book.
Got it.
Which may increase our efficiency, which may help drive our hourly rate down even more.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay. So 100% job time efficiency is the goal. If we're achieving 100% job time efficiency, right? Not company-wide efficiency, not hours worked versus billed hours.
Yeah.
But out of the billed hours,
yes, it's
it's
matching.
We bid it for 50. We got it done in 50. Like over the course of the year with 3 guys, we billed out 3,300 hours and we worked on the job 3,300 hours.
Yeah.
That's 100% job time efficiency. Okay. If you can hit 100% job time efficiency, which I feel like I've said like 1,000 times, then when you're looking at your revenue predictions, you know that 55% of the money should be left over for overhead.
Right.
And 30% is going to go, not left over for overhead. Should be left over for overhead
for
and
the
profit.
rest. Yeah, for the
30% is going to go to profit and 20% is going to be left on the net. So you can say, okay, well, if my overhead is this, and I have this amount of guys, and they're going to work this much, and I'm this efficient, I should be able to do this much in revenue.
Yeah, sure. Then you can predict the future out.
And if I should be able to do this much in revenue, well, in order to hit that, each guy needs to do this much in revenue a year. Each guy needs to do this much revenue a month. Each guy needs to do this much revenue a week. And each guy needs to do this much revenue a day. So now we can
trackers for everything. Yeah, gotcha.
And you can say company-wide, we need to hit this much revenue a month. We need to hit this much revenue a week. And we need to hit this much revenue every day.
Where before you were like, hours sold is 20, that equals 30% net margin. Hours sold 10, that equals whatever. Now you can be like, revenue equals this margin, revenue B equals this margin, so on and so forth.
Right. So now all we have to look at is, did we hit minimum revenue?
Got it.
And at, what revenue we hit, what percent margin should we be at on our P&L?
Yes. Cool. So then, like you just
it gets rid of one thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if we sell a ton of materials or a ton of labor. My margin is the same.
Revenue. So like the key metric that you're looking at is very simple.
Yep.
Pricing is a little bit more complicated.
It simplifies a lot of things.
Yeah.
It incentivizes a lot of good things. To me, it helps out your customers, helps out your technicians, makes it a mo better thing.
Yeah. Nope. I understand. Yep.
Yeah.
Because again, the other side, the other way of doing it, the customer ends up paying more for certain things quite a bit, which isn't good for the customer.
Nope. There are some things that are cheaper for them.
Sure.
Like some things did get more expensive, but they should have been more expensive this whole time. Really.
Yeah, because the inefficiency on the materials.
Correct.
Like if you were actually accurate on your materials, they would have been more expensive anyway.
Correct.
Because then the materials would have been marked up properly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Yep.
Man, that's cool.
So, needless to say, what we just covered in a probably an hour conversation that took me 9 months to think through, understand how it affects my business. Isn't that silly?
Yeah, but you applied yourself to thinking about that for 9 months.
I thought about it a lot for a long time.
And so if you even think about it, like you just applied yourself for 9 months to potentially increase top line by $1 million.
Possibly.
Like if it works out that way.
Chances are it won't.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
That's best case scenario.
That's best case scenario.
$1 million, best case.
We'll probably lose 5-6% somewhere in there. But, if it increases efficiency by 5%, like we did 5 million last year, 10% of 5 million is what?
500,000?
500,000, is it?
I don't know. Dude. I'm not the math guy here.
Dude. Come on.
50,000. 5,000.
You're just
500.
guessing, dude. You can't guess.
10% of 5 million?
What's 10% of a million?
100,000.
Okay. 10% of 5 million?
10% of 5 million?
500,000.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So if we can even just get a 5% increase, that's $250,000 increase. Yeah. My expenses didn't change. Guess where that $250,000 goes?
Straight to the bottom.
Straight to the bottom. Straight into my net. That would rocket me to a huge profit margin.
Yeah.
Industry wise, we would have insanely high profit margins for a plumbing and heating business. We already have higher than average. That could make it even better. So yeah, definitely worth thinking about. Definitely.
Sweet, man.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. If you haven't grabbed our playbook, go grab it. It's in the link in the description on YouTube. if you're listening like a rock star, 'cause rock stars listen.
Thank you.
No offense, YouTubers. Go to wealthyplumber.com
I listen on YouTube all the time.
/playbook. Grab our playbook. It's free. There's a ton of cool stuff in there. You get a free calculator. Can't go wrong.
It's like 90 pages long.
Yeah, and then you can book a call with our team, see if we can help you out. If not, cool. If we can, cool. Yeah. And BTW, I took a nap before this podcast.
Ooh, no yawns from Jared. Oh, man.
Just kidding. I didn't nap. I just didn't yawn.
Yeah, you were just holding it down.
All
right. See you, dude.
See you, Holmes.